Welcome back to another powerhouse episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, your host, Phil Better, the podcast mogul, and we're diving into the deep intersection of media, innovation, and education with an industry veteran who's redefining how we engage in content. Our guest is a true pioneer in the world of digital entrepreneurship and media influence. He's the visionary founder and CEO of Vida Fair, or Vita Fair, depending on how you want to mention it, a groundbreaking pay-per-stream video platform that's empowering creators and shaking up the video landscape. Before he was a champion for educational reform and media freedom as the founder and executive director of Choice Media, the premier news source focused on school issue choices. With an impressive career spanning roles as a television producer, reporter, commentator on major news networks like PBS and Bloomberg Television, just to name a few, he's brought sharp insight and compelling stories to audiences everywhere. And for those who appreciate a touch of satire, you might even recognize him from a few appearances on the Onion News Network, where his comedic timing shines through. Beyond these compliments, he's also an award-winning documentary filmmaker. His critically acclaimed documentary, The Cartel, peels back the curtain on corruption in the public education system, earning him over a dozen film festival awards for its powerful message. So get ready for an enlightening conversation about challenges, rewards, and the future of media and education with none other than Bob Bowdon. Bob, thank you so much for being here.
Phil, I did not know that a mogul was involved in this program. Now I'm going to pay particular attention to my performance. I'm going to step up my game now that I know the consequences are so deep.
Oh, I'm pretty sure you're going to far supersede any expectations I have for this and my audience as well. But Bob, I'm very excited to talk to you because the future of media is something that's so important to us as we look to the future. And I want to know, but first, I want to know, why did you decide to go into the 9 to 5? You had an amazing career. Why did you leave 9 to 5 to be your own boss, if you will, the entrepreneurial?
Sure. Well, I guess it might sound cliche, but it is true. I saw a need. I basically was at the one point in my career going to the film festival circuit around the country and entering my film, but then in between the films you're chatting with other directors who were there in the room, or you're having drinks at the bar, etc. And conversations come up and you realize some of these people, first of all, there's great work that has nowhere to make a penny after really actually at all, let alone, and they're lucky if they get into one local film festival and they invite all their friends and they maybe have that one screening and then they just go home and start over. So, but it's not, I don't want to make it just about films. There's all kinds of video content made these days that should have a way for people to monetize it, which is just a fancy word for making money. And I saw a need in the sense that I just was not seeing the kinds of service that I would think I would want if I were a successful video content creator. I guess you could argue that there's an extremely top high tier of people who are getting millions of views per episode. The Mr. Beasts or the Joe Rogans, or there's a certain, I guess, echelon. Maybe those people do get multi-million-dollar Spotify deals or deals from sponsors, et cetera. But below that, there's an enormous space of people who I think deserve a better way to make money from their work by setting a fair price and letting people pay it. So I wanted to build a platform to do that.
I love that. I love how you're looking at the little person, the person that may have that audience, but not the size of the audience that starts paying. That YouTube will give those nice dollars from those checks.
Sure. And if I could just interrupt for a second, yeah, there's different parts of that audience. So there's the kind of general audience person who's newer and just hasn't gotten that big yet. But there's the other kind of content that's just niche, but perfectly respectable and important and deserves to be supported financially, just because, it may not be the most, the broadest kind of type content that one could imagine. Why shouldn't somebody who does something specific but does it well, why shouldn't they be able to make money from their audience also? And so that's what we try to do.
as a podcaster, I truly feel this, because it is one of the, it's hard to get money from something that you're passionate about. And if you're running a YouTube channel making films daily, obviously you know how expensive it is to make a film. Getting fair compensation is just fair, period, and end of discussion. I think so. That's why I really was really happy to have you on. How did you come up with the, obviously the idea for a vid affair came up from talking on the circuit with these other directors, and learning that they're not making the money that they should be because their work is changing and impactful. What else led to the creation of vid affair? Like, how did you come up with the idea that I'm going to do a pay-per-view streaming service and to fight against these other?
Sure, where the creator sets their own fee, by the
Yeah.
way. I always like to add that part because that's important too. Video lengths can vary enormously. There can be a short minute, 5 minute film, a short form 5 minute film. There can be a 3 hour long podcast. So there's obviously so just the duration, of course, and the cost varies as well. People can put a whole lot of money into production value of one video that's 60 minutes long, and another person puts hardly any money into the production of a 60-minute. And so also the amount of time that you put into something can vary enormously. Some people can just take some lovely footage of their puppies playing with each other and might have a great audience, but they didn't necessarily spend a lot of time developing that content. Whereas obviously people can spend a lot of time. So time, money, duration, all of these factors ought to affect how much money a creator needs to be compensated for the work. And so it seems to me the platform shouldn't be saying or just prescribing from above, like top down, those kinds of things. It ought to be like Airbnb, where if you own a condo, you can set your own rental rate for the condo. And if you set the rate too high and don't get any rentals, well, that's on you. You probably didn't. I deserve $1,000 a night for my garage. That's funny. I haven't gotten any rentals in the last year. It must be Airbnb's fault. No, maybe this is another reason. So anyway, the idea is that the person who's closest to the work is the person best suited to set their own creator fee, and so that's how we do it. So I wanted to say, as you say, like, what else besides the film festival? Yeah, there was. So I've been around a while, and I was actually on TV in the early days of the internet, and so this was an era that your great grandfather knew about, Phil, called the '90s. I don't know if you've seen it in history books or something.
I started to see it in the history books.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I was around then, and I was on television as kind of a sidekick we had this news cable channel, cable TV channel that was a news format, but I would kind of be a guy on the internet who would a discussion would happen about some topic or whatever, and I would be the person looking up information on the internet to add to the conversation. So there'd be like the main host and a guest or several guests, sometimes a studio audience. But I would be the guy sitting in the little computer, like I'd be the nerd sitting on the side who'd be like, I have a quote about this thing you're talking about, or a statistic, or a survey result, or whatever it is. So I would, that was my job for this cable channel. And I remember at the time, this is something I don't want to get too long-winded. I remember at the time when the internet was relatively new, and people at that time, you could pull up news stories from the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, the Houston Chronicle. You could pull up news stories for free on all these websites.
Yeah.
And I remember people saying at that time, well, who's going to buy the newspaper if you can get all the stories for free on the internet? And I remember thinking, well, I know the answer to that. Just charge a little micropayment for each story, and that way, no, it'll be fine. I'll be happily pay 15 cents for a news story, or 5 cents, depending on the story, and et cetera. Like the outlet, maybe I'll pay 25 cents, maybe I'll pay 50 cents. But I thought a micropayment architecture was, to me, the logical answer to the question of how to monetize that kind of text content. Turned out the world did not go that direction. The world went the subscription direction. It ignored my sage and wise advice. And and then I saw that same kind of thinking propagate into the world of subscription monetization, such that not only do we all have subscriptions that are the streaming service type, like the Netflixes and the HBOs and those kinds of subscriptions, but also the Patreon type subscriptions too, where it's more kind of DIY and like user defined content. But I always I kind of don't like subscribing, Phil. I'm team hashtag subscription fatigue. I don't want to subscribe to anything else. I'm sick of subscribing to stuff. But if you can give me a way to just pay someone a little bit of money once, I'll do it all the time. Actually do it myself. I will super chat on YouTube people, because I know I'm giving them $2 or I'm giving them $5, and and I'm happy to do that. But if you want me to subscribe, then I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. So so I wanted to build a platform, in other words, that was not another subscription platform the way Patreon is. I wanted to build a platform where people could monetize were based on either purely a la carte type, pure kind of TVOD, it's called now. The old term is pay-per-view type, pay for just to view this one clip. You can do that. But if you do want a discount, which is often the kind of underpinning for why subscriptions exist, you get the sense of like, well, it's a volume purchase. If I subscribe, I'll watch a lot of content and I only pay this one amount. It's a sense of a volume discount. But we can do that through packages of tokens that you can buy. So you can buy a batch of our, what we call grain tokens, and then use a little bit for each rental. And you've only paid one financial transaction fee. So it's like you pay a lot less per rental. So you still provide the discount concept, the volume discount concept, without any kind of repeating charge. In other words, you can decide for yourself if you want to come back and buy more of the token packages. So if that's a long-winded answer, but there you go.
I love it. No, because you just recreated Blockbuster in essence, or a video like in my eyes, because like you have a subscription, quote unquote, to a Blockbuster, but you didn't pay monthly for it. You would just go in, pay for what you rented, and have the chance to watch it, which I miss, by the way. I also
That's
have
actually
that.
a good branding for us. We're like we'd be like the YouTube Blockbuster combo. Like if YouTube and Blockbuster had a baby, then it would be Vitafair. Right.
There you go. I love it. I just helped. I love it. I think I love the fact that Vitafair not only empowers creators, because obviously we're in a creator economy right now. A lot more people are going on YouTubes and podcasts and all that and creating this amazing content, but they're not getting that financial backing. But you're like, hey, we can help you with that. We'll be your Blockbuster. We'll host it. We'll take care of all the hot stuff. You just tell us how much you want to charge for it, and we'll get it done. I think that is genius.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, it's hard taking on big tech, though, Phil. It's
Oh,
not that. We need the help from anyone who wants to download our app, our iPhone app, or Android app, or go to our website and check us out. We're still a startup, so we believe in it, and I sometimes feel like I'm sounding grandiose. I think it's almost kind of a moral calling, a little bit, like feeling like you're really democratizing the ability for individual people to do the work they like and make money from, skip the middleman, skip the gatekeepers, go right to their social media followers and say, hey, maybe you want to support me, and there's no subscription, just pay this one time and you can watch this special program or film or show or something. So I feel like it is something that is, kind of a calling, a little bit, like I don't want to sound like I'm a saint, like I think I'm a saint, but I think you get the idea.
yeah, it is a calling, because not everybody would take on big tech. Not everybody would be taking on the Disneys, the Amazons, the Netflix, to help the little person. Because most people go like, how can I get the money from the big tech so that I can relax, right? That individuality that we're seeing perpetuate sometimes, but in the creative space it's a lot more collaborative, because we understand as creatives we need someone who's good at making paint so that we can do our painting, or we need a cinematographer to be able to film our vision if we're not doing those little doggy and cat videos, if we want to make that movie.
Sure. Just out of curiosity, where are you talking to me from today, Phil?
I'm talking from Montreal.
Ah, I've been there once. Yes. I no, I don't know if anyone cares. I went to. I was at a. I met the actor Pierce Brosnan in a Montreal jazz bar, and he was very drunk. And he,
Surprising. A few too many shaken martinis, I think.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a funny line. Yeah. And then he went to. I think, kind of try to start flirting with the woman I was with. So he that was. He, I introduced myself, and he very quickly turned to her and just started to.
Well, when you're
But
James Bond,
so anyway,
uh,
that's my Montreal story.
that's a great Montreal story. Luckily, it wasn't a hockey player. It was only Pierce Brosnan. James Bond. You can take on James Bond.
Sure. I think he
But
was doing that movie about Native Americans at the time or so. I never even saw the movie, but whatever.
well, I can understand him trying to take away your lady you were with. I
No,
can
I
fully
know.
understand.
I know. I actually, it was kind of flattering in a sense. Like, well, if James Bond likes her and I'm with her, that's pretty good. Yeah.
James Bond has a liking to her. I'm doing great, but hope.
It kind
Uh,
of makes me a little bit like James Bond, in a
there you
way,
go.
Yeah.
Um, and you're on this mission that everybody knows who you are to democratize making money in essence through video content. Um,
But the content creators need to do also their part of telling their social media followers
of
that it's
course,
there. We're new. So I don't think it's not the case. We're not Netflix yet where you can just put it up and just wait for just,
the people to
wait
come.
for the Brinks truck to show up with all the money. Like they need to also promote it to their followers, et cetera. But in terms of our pricing though, it's, for $6, you can upload a piece of content and then start making money,
I love it. Keeping it as simple as possible for people. So as long as they make their $6, boom, they're making money for it, and you're helping them create a livelihood. With what you're doing, what is the strategy? Because you're brand new, you're still not brand new, but you're still a young startup. What are some of the ways that you're going about marketing that are going against the grain?
We've done all kinds of things. We've done things like we've done podcasts with moguls who are hosts of podcasts. We have. I like to tell a story about the money I wasted at this trade show when we were kind of first starting out, and we were at that point. I thought, oh, we're going to try to like convince everyone we're a big established company that'll exude credibility. Then they'll like us. And it turns out no one cared. Like we so we got this big booth space, and we had all these employees there, and we had all kinds of what's it called, you give away all the stuff you give away.
Yeah, giveaways, merchandise
Swag,
giveaways,
that's what I was
swag.
trying to think of. We bought all of this. We had a breakout session, we had all this stuff. No one cared. And then what I learned afterward is like people would actually rather just hear from me and say, like, instead of believing, oh, it's credible because it's some big company, they'll actually perceive more credibility by watching me come on shows like yours, or else just going on our own social media with my face saying, hey, I'm Bob. I'm the founder of VidaFair. Here's the tutorial on how to upload a video. Let's go. Step one. And they'll see me talking to them. And I think, that's more authenticity is more conveyed that way than this sort of pretending you're big. But yeah, so but we've had more success. We've had more success the more kind of authentic we are in saying what we're doing. And if you have any questions, just you can ask a question on our contact form. We have always answered within 24 hours, if not sooner. So we're pretty transparent, I'm a filmmaker myself. I wanted to create, like, if you just had a blank sheet of paper and said, what would be the fairest way? And as I like to say, fairness is in our name, VidaFair. The fairest way to create a monetization platform for creators coming from as a former filmmaker, like, well, one thing you would not make it exclusive, and we're not exclusive. Like, so we're basically for the creator. If they want to market it elsewhere, fine by us. They can put the same content anywhere else they want. Why should we tell them no? What else would you do? You'd have like no contracts. They can leave anytime they want. They can, in fact, we don't even have, again, any subscriptions, any recurring fees or charges at all. Anyone who just stops interacting with our site, then never one more penny is charged from our site. They're
Love that.
authorizing every single rental of a content, every single upload of a content is independently authorized. You do that. So yeah, in a lot of ways, we wanted to make our well, here's even a little thing, like in the descriptions of a certain video content that's available for rent. Some sites don't let you put in links, so they're like, oh, we'll lose the traffic. They'll put in a link to their LinkedIn, for example, or to their Instagram page or something else, or their link to their own YouTube, or whatever they want. Like a lot of sites will prevent outside linking because they're afraid they will lose the customer, the eyeballs to some other site. They'll go away. My view is like, no, design what the creator would want. What would I want as a creator? I would want the most flexibility, and that's what we try to do.
Trying to hark back to the early days of the 90s where the internet was pretty much free for everybody and you had to pay only for certain things. You didn't have these subscriptions for everywhere. I love it. I love it. Oh, you guys are doing so much work. And that's why I wanted you on the podcast, because you're changing, you're revolutionary. You're like podcasting in essence, changing the way people are listening to stuff. You're changing the way creators are being paid, which I love, because creators as a podcaster, very hard to get paid unless you're in that top 1% Joe Rogan style number of podcasts. It's hard to get that.
Well, 1%, top 1,000th of 1%. Yeah. I mean, the average YouTube, you can look at it. I just saw the new numbers from 2024 on YouTube monetization, average compensation. It averages to 0.2 of a penny per view. It actually went up, I think, from 0.18 pennies to 0.2 pennies per view. But in other words, just think about that for a second. 0.2 of 1 penny per view. Whereas on our site, you could set your own fee to be, let's even just say 50 cents a view. Compared to 0.2 of 1 penny, I mean, that's already 250 times the per view revenue. And someone said, well, so in other words, that's if you only charge 50 cents. So, so there's and of course, the monetization. So there's, advertising monetization, which is what YouTube is. It's what a lot of sites kind of use. It's just such low. So that's another, I can talk. So I was already, I'll keep it clean. I was already crapping on subscription monetization. If you want me to crap on advertiser monetization, that is that you annoy your viewers by making them sit through ads, which who likes to do that? Separately, you run the risk of the advertisers then exuding some sort of content control because they say, oh, we don't like this person's controversial, or this person uses bad words, or whatever it is. So then you have this sort of creeping possibility of a kind of a censorship regime that bringing on advertisers might foster, in other words. So that's a second problem. And then just the low money. Yeah, it's again, when you're talking about tenths of a penny per view, you need enormous, maybe again, if you're Taylor Swift or something, it's fine. You have, so many millions of views every day that you still make a lot of money. But to put it this way, we can let that exist. We can let advertiser-based monetization exist. We can let subscription-based monetization exist, and coexist with both of those, and have what we do, which is pay-per-view or TVOD monetization as a third way.
I love it because all of these are essentially how we used to live. We used to live before the internet exploded with all these different things. We used to have subscriptions services, we had newspapers, but they also took in the advertising as well to cut down that costs. But you occasionally had the pay one to go when you want to buy a CD or something, right? And I think you're bringing it into the digital world, and you're making it so that the people who think there are only two ways, there's actually that third way, and it helps 100% of the money goes to the artist or the creator, which we need. We need to fund the arts more because we need people to make us creative so that we can be better at our jobs. Because without art, without creativity, what are we? We're robots. We're doing nothing. Nothing is improving because ideas are sparked by creativity.
Sure. And let me just say too, in the podcast space, it's different than the filmmaker space. where generally a filmmaker, what do they do, one film a year or something like that? If lucky, maybe it's one every 2 years or something like that. In the case of a podcast that is more regular, there's what's become known as kind of a freemium model is the word, where you give out this much stuff for free, and then you say, oh, if you're a super fan, then go over here. There's my Patreon over there or something like that, and you can subscribe, right?
Mhm.
So that we're non-subscription. Our view is that that same exact content, if it's already being developed as paywall content for Patreon, could also be paywall content for VidAfair in the pay-per-view version. So you could let the customers choose. That you could say, oh, here's my free stuff. It's every week on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or wherever it is. Here's my free stuff. But if you're a super fan, you can come over here and watch my paywall stuff, and it's up to you. You can either subscribe or you can pay a la carte, and let them decide. And to me, that would be usually when you give customers more ways to buy a product. More often than not, more people buy. Because if there are more ways to buy, they're satisfy different kinds of people. And surveys show that about half of the country will not subscribe to anything new. But if you give them some other way to buy, that's just a one-time charge, then many of them will. So it's the point being that we're not incompatible with those other monetization
methods,
paradigms. We're not incompatible.
No,
But go ahead.
You fit in perfectly because for the free stuff, I can go to YouTube and I can deal with the ads unless I pay for YouTube Premium, which gets rid of the ads. But if I want to pay with the ads, I can watch there. If I want to be a super fan and pay the premium because I always want this creator's content, I can go to their Patreon or their membership. But if I'm a in-between fan that doesn't want to deal with the ads, I can go, oh, they have this person on. I really want to hear what this person's on. Oh, it's only 50 cents, 20 cents. Boom, done. Or I pay and I get all those tokens so that I can, jump around and say, oh, this person's over here. I want to support this. And it's a better way to spread the love to the supporters instead of sitting through, 50 ads that you never want to have, because that was what TV was for. TV had the ads. And we went to streaming because we didn't want ads, and somehow they got into the ads. I think, I love VidAfair, but we're closing in on time here, and I hate it because I think we can probably go for another 30 hours. But that's going to be on the VidAfair website. You can get us late afterwards.
There you go. Look, you can do it. It's been done already. Yeah, sure.
But I would love to know, where do you see yourself, Bob, in 10 years, and where do you see VidAfair in 10 years?
Well, the goal is, things always change. Life, any of us could die tomorrow. I hate to sound like I'm being morbid, but in a way, it's also kind of freeing to think of it that way. But the goal would be that we are at least part of an ecosystem where it is easier to monetize work, and without satisfying gatekeepers or censors or things like that. Where now that said, we do have a no porn. I basically say like any kind of video, but we have like 5 different flags we don't accept. Copyright violations. You can't just upload some movie that you have nothing to do with, and you can't dox people, and you can't threaten people, and no child abuse, and no porn. So it's basically things like that. But apart from that, we don't have any kind of ideological, we're kind of a free speech sort of platform, really. But I forgot where I was going with that exactly. But
where you see VidFair in 10 years?
Oh yeah, just that we are part of an ecosystem where people can monetize their work just frictionlessly, to remove all these barriers that are in the way from keeping people from seeing work, and then seeing, even if it's a micropayment price, being able to just, okay, someone will just pay you for your content, and you'll be able to just very easily make money from it based purely on your own skills, and that's the way it should be, and your own quality, and the attractiveness of your content. That just should be a marketplace. We wanted to create I worked a while, as you mentioned, in Bloomberg Television doing business news. So I would be standing on the New York Stock Exchange, or I would be at the NASDAQ or whatever. That's a marketplace where people trade stocks, right? It's a centralized. I view us to be that for video, a centralized marketplace where video can be uploaded and rented, and therefore it's just removing the friction and the barriers from people trading freely with each other. I have this content. Okay, I want that content and I'll pay you this much for it. Okay, shake hands and make a deal. That should be easy, and it has not been easy before until now.
I love it. I love that you're bringing the ease of quote unquote you're bringing the free market, because now we get to pay what we want to and make the decision instead of having to subscribe and go, I don't really want this, because there's tons of stuff on Netflix that I don't watch but I know other people do, and I don't want to pay for that, but I understand that it's supporting. And then there you got the dealing with all the ads that I don't want to deal with on YouTube, because God, they're annoying, and they're always the same 5 ads that play every single time.
And here's a good analogy too, that if you just go to Amazon Prime, like on my Apple TV on my wall, my TV on my wall on the Apple TV, like if you're on Amazon Prime, it says, this particular movie you can rent for $3.99, or it comes free with Amazon Prime if you're a subscriber.
Mm-hmm.
So that same exact content can be consumed or monetized different ways based on what the customer wants. The customer chooses, do I subscribe to Amazon Prime or do I pay $3.99 for this one movie? That's what we're bringing to sort of what I'd call YouTube type content.
I love it. You're in essence just taking what the big guys are doing it and bringing it down to the smaller, more accessible, because YouTube has not YouTube, but Amazon has a whole bunch of regulations about how and what you can put up, and same with Netflix and the other streaming services. Here you're like, hey, we're going to be the boss and allow you to decide, except for these 5 things, which is very fairly understandable. It's pretty much practically across the board. Yeah, I am just so excited to go dive deeper into Vitafair after this interview, because I want to.
I can't even hear any French accent. I was sort of expecting a guy from Montreal is going to be hitting me up with like French sounding questions. I'm not really getting any of that.
No, you're lucky. I was bilingual by birth, so I was able to switch. If you want, I can speak with a bit of a French accent, and we can try and figure out how we can do this. But my final question to you is, it's a personal question. I love these questions because it gives the best answers. But I have your 10-year-old self here, Bob. He's awesome, great creative person. Just trying to take my camera to film, and I don't know why. But I want to know what advice you would love to give to your 10-year-old self.
It's the single most deeply profound question in human existence, I think. One piece of advice I like to give people is have a separate email address just for corporate signups. First of all, number one, I'm not kidding. I literally do have that. I actually have it. You wouldn't believe the differential in spam I get from the corporate sign-up email address versus my personal email address. But people always laugh, but I'm like, no, I'm not kidding. Like, you actually should do that, like right now. So, but on a deeper level, I think to myself, I was a lot more selfish, which most kids are. 10-year-old, you picked a pretty young age for that. You could even say 20, and I would still deserve this advice. Would have deserved it at that age. But yeah, I think that by building your world around your own self, your own search for pleasure, your own search for glory or self-affirmation or whatever, all the superficialities of life. Yeah, it wears thin, and it's not a formula for lasting happiness. And it's really the distinction between pleasure and happiness, I think. And so I think my younger self would have needed more lessons in the importance of other people and treating them in a way where after they've dealt with you, they feel respected. And just, it's not that I was a terrible, worst person in the world, but just that I think that I didn't think about other people as much as I should have. at that age. So that's my answer.
I love that. And like you said, this is great advice for someone 10 to 30 years old to 40, 50 years old,
Yeah.
to start taking compassion for other people. I'm going to jump off stage here, Bob. I want you to let my audience know where they can find you, how they can sign up to VitaFair and all those fun stuff so that they can start monetizing their creativity. The floor, sir, is yours.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I didn't realize I was going full screen. I probably would have done my hair better. No, it's just 8 letters: VIDAFAIR. You can say Vida Fair, which is life that's fair, or you can say VitaFair, which is like video affair. So it's a double entendre. But at any rate, so please download our app on iPhone or Android. Please go to our website, vitafair.com. You just need a .com at the end, and check it out. And then give us feedback. Tell us what we could do differently or what worked well. You could try renting some content for as little as 99 cents or $1.99 or those kind of price points. You could also buy a little package of our tokens for just $5.99. This is less than your sandwich at lunch, everybody. So you can try out our platform and just let us know how it works. There's a contact page right on the website that you can use to let us know how it's working for you. And and then I'll throw in follow us on social media like the Instagrams and X's and Facebooks and LinkedIn's and YouTubes of the world. All those you can just look for VitaFair and follow us and get updates and that kind of thing. But I really appreciate it. Thanks, Phil.
Bob, it was an absolute pleasure. I'm in the process of downloading VitaFair on my phone right now because I'm going to check it out and probably sign up and start monetizing my creativity that way.
We need, we're a little company. We need your help, and we so appreciate it. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Bob, thank you again for being here. To my audience, make sure you check out the show notes down below and do download VitaFairs to help you see what else is out there, as well as possibly monetizing your zone of genius somehow. So I thank you very much for listening. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.